They say money can't buy happiness. But it can buy a front row seat to your own execution. The champagne fountain sparkled under the crystal chandelier at the Gyeongbok Pavilion, where Seoul's elite met African luxury. Soft K-pop jazz filled the air as guests mingled, celebrating what they believed was a milestone. 6 years of marriage. 6 years that were about to detonate in the most brutal way imaginable. Damon Sheffield stood at the head table, his hand wrapped around crystal worth more than most people's rent. He looked every bit the rising mogul in his tailored charcoal suit, custom-made by a Gangnam designer. Beside him sat his wife, Nadia Sheffield, wearing a cream dress from a local market and an Ankara print silk shawl, the only piece of home she had left. She didn't notice the way Damon kept checking his Patek Philippe. She was too busy being grateful he'd planned anything at all. Damon stood, tapping his glass. The room fell silent. 50 faces, investors, socialites, chaebol partners, turned toward him. 6 years of marriage is a long journey, Damon began, his voice carrying across the pavilion. It shows you what you really want, and what you settled for. Nadia reached for his hand under the table. He pulled away like her touch was poison. From his jacket, he produced a blue folder and dropped it on the table between them. I'm filing for divorce. The collective gasp was sharp, devastating. Nadia stared at the folder, her world tilting. Damon, she whispered. In front of everyone? On our anniversary? He didn't look at her. Why wait? These people deserve the truth. You're adequate, Nadia. But you don't fit the world I'm building with my Korean partners. You're a village girl playing house in a penthouse. The insult landed like a blade. Nadia had given up everything, her identity, her family, her dreams, to support this man's climb to power. Movement caught her eye. A woman stood from a table near the back, tall, blonde, draped in gold and designer silk. Sienna Cross. Damon's business associate. The woman who'd been to their home for dinner parties. Who'd complimented Nadia's jollof rice. Sienna walked to Damon's side, heels clicking like a death march on marble. He wrapped his arm around her waist possessively. This is Sienna, Damon announced to the room. She understands ambition. She understands the chaebol legacy. She is the woman I should have married from the start. Sienna smiled with practiced sympathy. I hope we can all be mature about this, honey. Nadia stood so fast her chair crashed backward. The sound echoed through the silent pavilion like a gunshot. Mature. Her voice shook with fury. You parade your mistress at our anniversary dinner and ask for maturity? I worked 2 jobs to pay your business school loans. I gave up my life for your career. Lower your voice. Damon's eyes went cold. You're making a scene. Sign the papers. I'm keeping the penthouse, it's in my name. You can take your cheap clothes and leave. You're good at surviving, aren't you? Nadia looked around the room. Her mother-in-law studied the floor. Damon's brother pretended to check his phone. Not one person defended her. Not one person stood. Something inside Nadia went quiet. Not broken. Glacial. She picked up her purse. Keep your papers, Damon. My lawyer will be in touch. She walked out, spine straight, head high. Every eye followed. The whispers erupted before she reached the door. Her phone vibrated. The screen lit up. Appa, Dad. She stared at it for a long moment before answering. Appa, she whispered, her voice finally breaking. Nadia. Her father's voice was warm, then steel. The driver saw you leave alone. What happened? The tears came hot and fast. He left me. In front of everyone. He said I wasn't enough for his world. That I'm just a village girl. Silence. Then her father spoke, and his voice carried the weight of empires. Stay right there. I'm sending the car. It's time to come home, princess. No more hiding. No more thorn. It's time the world meets a Harlow-Park. 20 minutes later, a sleek black 2026 Mercedes Maybach with tinted windows pulled to the curb. The elite guests exiting the restaurant froze, recognizing the diplomatic plates. A Korean chauffeur in a sharp black suit stepped out. He walked past confused socialites and bowed 90 degrees to Nadia. "Gongju Nim, princess," he said respectfully. "Your father is waiting. The private jet to Seoul is fueled and ready." Nadia stepped into the car. As the door closed with an expensive thud, she looked back at the restaurant one last time. Inside, Damon was laughing with Sienna, completely unaware that he'd just signed a death warrant for everything he'd built. Damon Sheffield thought he was trading up. He had no idea he just threw away the only thing protecting his entire empire. The Harlow-Park estate sprawled across 100 acres of prime Seoul real estate. Traditional Hanok architecture blended seamlessly with modern glass and steel. Security checkpoints. Private guards. A mansion that looked like it belonged in a K-drama, because it literally had been featured in 3. Nadia hadn't been home in 6 years. The car stopped. The grand doors opened, and there stood her father, Victor Harlow-Park. Korean-American, self-made trillionaire, CEO of Harlow-Park Industries. Forbes ranked him number 7 in the world. His empire touched everything from semiconductors to entertainment, real estate to AI. He didn't ask questions. He simply opened his arms. Nadia ran to him and broke down completely. "I tried so hard to be normal," she sobbed into his shoulder. "I didn't want him to want me for the money. I wanted to be loved." Victor held her tight. "You gave him a gift. He chose to see it as worthless. That's not your failure. That's his." Inside, staff moved like shadows, respectful and silent. Nadia's childhood room was exactly as she'd left it, modern furniture mixed with African textiles her mother had collected. Photos of a life she'd abandoned to be normal. That night, while Nadia slept, her phone exploded with messages. "Damon, we need to discuss logistics. Damon, you're being dramatic. Damon, the penthouse keys are still here. When are you picking up your things? Asterisk." She ignored them all. "If you're feeling the shift coming, pause right here. Hit that like button because what Damon doesn't know yet is about to destroy him. Subscribe so you don't miss how a trillionaire's daughter handles disrespect. Comment below, have you ever watched someone underestimate the wrong person? Keep watching." The next morning, Victor called Nadia to his study. She entered wearing silk pajamas, eyes still swollen from crying. "Sit," he said gently. "Tell me about Damon Sheffield." Nadia explained everything. The coffee shop meeting. Hiding her identity. Using her mother's maiden name, Thorne. Working as a bookkeeper. Supporting every step of Damon's rise while keeping her family secret. Victor listened without interrupting, his fingers steepled under his chin. When she finished, he turned his computer screen toward her. Damon Sheffield's entire financial history filled the display. Property records. Business loans. Investment portfolios. Partnership agreements. The penthouse is keeping. Victor said quietly. "You bought it. Through Harlow-Park Trust, established when you turned 18. I managed it while you were exploring independence." Nadia's hands went numb. "What? The consulting firm he's so proud of? Funded by our venture capital arm through an anonymous LLC. The car he drives, a gift from a business partner that was actually us. The club memberships. The investment accounts that saved his firm during the recession." Victor leaned back. "All of it traces back to Harlow-Park money." I didn't know." "I know you didn't. I did it to protect you. If the relationship failed, you'd be protected financially." Victor's expression hardened. "I never imagined he'd humiliate my daughter publicly while spending her family's money." Nadia stared at the screen, watching 6 years of Damon's success unravel. Every milestone he'd celebrated was built on her family's empire. "There's more," Victor said. He pulled up another document. His chaebol partnership? The Korean investors he's so proud of impressing? They're our subsidiaries. Damon Sheffield has been doing business with Harlow-Park Industries the entire time, just through shell companies. A laugh escaped Nadia, bitter and sharp. "He called me a village girl. Said I didn't fit his world. His world is your world. He just didn't know it. Victor closed the laptop. The question is, what do you want to do about it? Nadia thought about Sienna's hand on Damon's shoulder. About 50 people watched her marriage end. About being called adequate. I want what's mine, she said. Victor smiled. It wasn't warm. Then let's begin. Across the city, Damon woke up feeling like a king. Sienna was in his kitchen, looking perfect, talking about redecorating now that the dead weight was gone. When's the divorce final? Sienna asked, sipping espresso. Soon as she signs. She's probably crying in some cheap hotel. Damon stretched. I was too generous with her anyway. She should be grateful I kept her as long as I did. A knock shattered the morning peace. Damon opened the door to two men in expensive suits. One carried a briefcase. The other wore a badge and an expression that meant business. Damon Sheffield. Yes. We're here regarding this property. Legal ownership has been transferred to the title holder. You have 48 hours to vacate. Damon laughed. Transferred? This is my penthouse. I bought it 3 years ago. The man opened his briefcase. According to public records and the deed filed this morning, this property was purchased by Harlow-Park Holdings Trust. The beneficiary has initiated immediate reclamation. He handed Damon a stack of documents. Sienna appeared behind him, reading over his shoulder. Her face went white. Harlow-Park, she whispered. As in, Victor Harlow-Park? The Korean trillionaire. Damon's hands shook as he flipped through pages. Every document screamed the same truth. Nadia Harlow-Park, primary beneficiary. Harlow-Park. Damon's voice cracked. Her last name is Thorne. Nadia Thorne. Thorne is her mother's maiden name. The man adjusted his glasses. Her legal name is Nadia Harlow-Park. Daughter of Victor Harlow-Park, CEO of Harlow-Park Industries. Net worth, $42 billion. 7th richest person in the world. The room tilted. Damon grabbed the doorframe. You have 48 hours, the man repeated. After that, private security will assist with removal. All utilities will be transferred at noon today. They left. Damon stood frozen, documents scattered at his feet like evidence of his own stupidity. His phone rang. Nadia calling. Nadia. He answered with desperate hope. There's been a terrible mistake. People just came saying. It's not a mistake. Her voice was calm. Cold. I want my property back. Your property? Nadia, please, we can fix this. I made a mistake at the restaurant. I was stressed. You were honest, she interrupted. You told 50 people I was adequate. That I was a village girl. That I didn't fit your world. Well, Damon, my family built that world. And now you can see what you actually are without us. Nothing. Wait. We can talk about this. Sienna grabbed his arm. Tell her we'll move out. Tell her. Nadia heard Sienna's voice. A long pause. 48 hours. Don't make me ask twice. Click. Sienna stared at him with growing horror. Your wife is a Harlow-Park? As in Harlow-Park Industries? The company that owns half of Seoul and a quarter of Silicon Valley. Damon couldn't breathe. And you dumped her? Sienna's voice climbed. In public? For me. She started laughing, the sound edging toward hysteria. Do you have any idea what you've done? What she can do to you? 24 hours later, the power shut off. By hour 36, the internet died. By 48 hours, Damon and Sienna stood on the sidewalk with 3 suitcases each, watching movers change the locks. Then Damon's business partner called. Damon, we need to talk. Our primary investor just pulled out. The entire fund. We're done. Who was the investor? It was anonymous through an LLC, but the withdrawal notice came from Harlow-Park Capital. Your firm is dead. Damon dropped the phone. Sienna's phone rang. She answered, listened, then hung up with tears in her eyes. "That was my boss," she said quietly. "I've been let go. Effective immediately." Damon stared at her. "What?" "Harlow-Park Industries just acquired a controlling stake in our parent company. First order of business, corporate restructuring." She looked at him with pure contempt. "This is your fault. You destroyed both of us." She grabbed her suitcases and walked away, heels clicking against pavement. She didn't look back. Damon stood alone on the street, everything he'd built crumbling around him. 3 weeks later, Damon sat in a budget hotel in Gangnam's back alleys, the kind of place he'd never imagined staying. Every job application, rejected. Every contact, suddenly unavailable. His consulting firm had dissolved overnight. The investors scattered like smoke. Then an email arrived. Subject: Employment opportunity. From Harlow-Park Industries, Human Resources. Mr. Sheffield, we are pleased to offer you a position as Junior Operations Associate in our Logistics Division. Start date: Monday 8 a.m. Salary and benefits attached. Damon opened the attachment. The salary was less than he'd made as an intern a decade ago. But he had no choice. He had no money, no prospects, no options. He accepted. Monday morning, Damon entered Harlow-Park Tower wearing his last clean suit. The lobby alone was bigger than his old penthouse. Marble floors. Modern Korean art worth millions. Employees moving with purpose and designer briefcases. At reception, they handed him a badge. No title. Just his name and level 3 access. Floor 14. Operations. Your supervisor is Mr. Kim. Floor 14 was a shared workspace. Cubicles. Fluorescent lights. The sound of keyboards and hushed phone calls. Damon's cubicle was smaller than his old closet. Around 10 a.m., the entire floor went silent. Damon looked up. The elevator doors opened, and Nadia stepped out. She walked through the floor, trailed by 3 assistants. Employees bowed respectfully. She acknowledged each with a slight nod. She passed Damon's cubicle without a glance. He felt invisible. Erased. Later that afternoon, his supervisor approached. "Mr. Sheffield, Miss Harlow-Park wants to see you. Executive floor. Now." Damon's stomach dropped. He took the elevator to the top floor, floor 42. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked all of Seoul. The Han River glittered below. Traditional Korean paintings hung beside contemporary African art. Nadia sat behind a desk of dark wood and glass, reading something on her tablet. She didn't look up when he entered. "Sit," she said. He sat a. For a long moment, silence. Then Nadia set down the tablet and met his eyes. "This isn't personal," she said. "This is business." "Nadia, I'm sorry. I was wrong. I was an idiot." "You were honest," she interrupted. "You showed me exactly who you were. I should thank you for that." Damon leaned forward. "I still love you. I made a mistake, but I still—" "No." Her voice cut like ice. "You loved who you thought I was. Someone small enough to control. Someone grateful enough to ignore your cruelty. Someone you could discard when something shinier came along." She slid a folder across the desk. Inside, performance review, unsatisfactory. Termination effective immediately. "You're firing me. You're not suited for this company. But I've arranged a severance package. 6 months' salary. Enough to get back on your feet if you're smart with it." Damon stared at the document. "Why even hire me then?" Nadia stood, walking to the window. Seoul spread beneath her like a kingdom. "So you'd understand," she said quietly. "Every door you walked through was opened by money you didn't earn. Every success you celebrated was built on support you took for granted and insulted. I wanted you to see what you actually are without my family's protection. A man with moderate talent and enormous arrogance." She turned back. "I don't hate you, Damon. I pity you. You had someone who loved you unconditionally, and you traded her for someone who loved your potential income. How is Sienna, by the way? Damon's silence answered. Sienna had blocked him the day she lost her job. That's what I thought. Nadia returned to her desk. Sign the termination. Take the severance. Move on. Build something real this time. Something that's actually yours. Damon signed with shaking hands. As he reached the door, Nadia spoke again. Damon. He turned. I hope you find someone who makes you happy. Really. But next time, make sure you know who you're looking at before you decide they're not enough. Because the next woman might not be as merciful as me. 6 months later, Nadia stood in her office watching the sunset paint Seoul in gold. Her father had officially made her CEO of Harlow-Park Ventures. She'd launched 4 charitable foundations across Africa and Korea. Forbes had just named her one of the 30 under 30 power players in global business. She was dating a professor of African history at Seoul National University. He thought she worked in accounting and loved her jollof rice more than her last name. Somewhere out there, Damon had rebuilt. She'd heard through channels that he got a decent position at a mid-tier firm. No penthouse. No Sienna. But stable. Humbled. Nadia felt no satisfaction in his fall. Only peace. Because she'd learned the most important lesson: never shrink yourself for someone else's comfort. Never hide your light to make someone else shine brighter. And never, ever let someone make you feel small when you're standing on top of the world. She didn't destroy Damon Sheffield. She simply stopped carrying him. And when she did, she finally learned to fly. In a world that tells women to be smaller, quieter, less, Nadia chose to be exactly who she was born to be. A force of nature. A legacy. A Harlow-Park. If this story hit different, don't just scroll past. Hit that like button to support stories where dignity defeats disrespect. Subscribe so you never miss a moment when karma comes quietly but completely. And tell me in the comments, what would you have done if you were Nadia? Would you have been this merciful? Or would you have gone further? Your answer matters. Drop it below. The next story? Even more intense. See you there.